Did you know that Joseph Turner created more than 2,000 watercolor paintings during his lifetime? Did you know that in China, landscape painting with watercolor was regarded as the highest form of Chinese painting, and generally still is today? Hello again. Welcome back to the Creator Studio. My name is Jeff Olson, Art Education Director for Royal Talens North America. In the last episode of the Creator Studio, we talked about the coloring agents for watercolor paint, pigments and dyes. In this episode, we'll be exploring the composition of watercolor paint, specifically what holds the paint together, what we refer to as the binder. Watercolor is made up of two primary ingredients, the coloring agent, the pigment or the dye, and the binder. Other ingredients include preservatives, flow enhancers, extenders, and of course water. The binder serves two primary purposes in any paint, including watercolor. The first is that of suspension. Remember when we talked about pigments in the previous episode, we compared them to pepper. You could stir them up in water, but they would eventually float back to the bottom. What a binder does is suspend that pigment, holds it in place after it's been mixed and milled. The second is to adhere the pigment to the surface. Gum arabic is the preferred binder for watercolor. Gum arabic is a sap that oozes from the branches of the acacia, an ancient tree that thrives in sub-Saharan Africa. Senegal is where most artist quality gum arabic comes from today. It crystallizes on the branches and is harvested by hand, just as it has been for hundreds of years. Gum arabic is unique from other binders like linseed oil or acrylic polymer used in oil paints and acrylics because it does not form a cohesive paint film. A paint film is just what it sounds like, a tough, impermeable surface that levels and dries around the pigment. While fulfilling the basic purpose of a binder, suspending and adhering, in the absence of a paint film, gum arabic facilitates the re-wetting of the paint, and the other result is the ability to lift color, which will be the main focus of our demonstration today. Today I'm going to show you very quickly the technique of lifting. I'm also going to show you the difference between a staining color and a lifting color. I've got an ultramarine blue and a phthalo green. Phthalo green is what we call a staining color. Ultramarine blue is what we call a lifting color, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in the demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull down a little of this green, and that beautiful phthalo green. Nice color. And here we have a wonderful ultramarine blue. So you can lift when the paint is wet or dry. I'm going to show you real quick, just so you get an idea, but I'm going to come through this area here. So this is ultramarine blue. It's a lifting color. I'm going to just go back in there while the paint is wet. And you see what I've done there? I've been able to lift the color, obliterating any existence of what was underneath. So you can see how this is a fun way to go back in and pull out some highlights. I'm going to show you what the staining color looks like. And drag the brush through it again. It doesn't come up quite as quick. I'm getting a little color now. Now let's take a look. You can see that I was able to pull color away from it, but you don't lose the edge. See the difference there? So both can be effective or useful, but it's important to know the difference. Lifting, staining. Now I'm going to wait till this dries and I'm going to show you how it works for that. My colors are almost completely dry. I just love this ultramarine blue. On this paper specifically. What a beautiful, beautiful, clean, clear mark. But I digress. Let's go ahead and look at it. So here were the lifts that I did while the paint was still wet. Now let's see what I can do after the paint is dried. So I'm lifting again with my brush. So this is after the paint's been completely dry. And I was still able to successfully lift most of the color, but there is a little bit of that edge. Now let's look at the staining color here. So again, I'm working it pretty thoroughly over the area. I can get some clean water on that. Here you can see the final results. Here was what we did while the paint was still wet. The ultramarine blue, which is a lifting color, lifted successfully without any kind of edge underneath. The phthalo green, which is a staining color. I was able to lift the color, but I couldn't eliminate that edge. Here's after the paint was dry. I was able to remove most of the color, but there's still a resemblance of the edge of the brush stroke underneath. And with this, there's a definite visible brush stroke underneath. I was able to pull the color, but not as successfully as with the ultramarine blue. So that's the difference between a staining color and a lifting color using a lifting technique. Now I'm going to show you a couple examples what other artists have been able to do with this technique, and I think you'll enjoy that. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Royal Talens Creator Studio. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.